The freeing of Vybz Cartel, or the sentencing of wife killer Beachy Stout, or a constitutional case involving a little girl with dreadlocks and a school that told her she had to cut the locks. Which of those or any other would be your top story, your top court story for 2024? Hi, this is my last video for 2024, so I wanted to share with you my top 10 of stories coming out from the courts. Thanks so much for being here. I'm Dionne Jackson-Miller. This is Courtside. Number 10. So this is a sad one for us. This is the murder of our colleague, veteran court reporter Barbara Gale. Now, Barbara was killed at home at Caymanas Estates on December 17. The police have charged 24-year-old Travis Ellis for her murder and for robbery with aggravation. Now, Barbara had covered the courts for the Gleaner since September 1968 when she started working there, and she was hugely respected for her work. Tributes have poured in for her life and her work from judges, from lawyers, from people in the media, from politicians, and a whole heap of other people. And, you know, this one was a really difficult story for all of us to cover. Rest in peace, Barbara. Number 9. Prime Minister Andrew Holness went to court to ask for leave to apply for judicial review of actions of the Integrity Commission involving a report that they published on his statutory declarations and also the Integrity Commission's refusal to certify his statutory declarations. The Prime Minister was granted leave to apply for judicial review for some of the items he had asked for, not for others. The case goes back to court in January 2025, and we should hear then the date when the court will hear the substantive issue, and we'll see what happens there. You can check out the videos I've done on this matter if you want to dig a little bit more deeply into what's been happening in this case. Number 8, the freeing of the soldiers in the Keith Clark case. Now, this had to do with the killing of accountant Keith Clark following the security forces operation in Tivoli Gardens in May 2010. The security forces were searching for Tivoli Gardens Don Christopher Dudas Cook when on May 27, 2010, they went to Mr. Clark's house where he was with his wife and daughter. He was killed during that operation under controversial circumstances. 3 soldiers were charged with his murder. During their trial, their lawyers made a no-case submission saying there wasn't enough evidence for the case to continue. The soldiers had their face covered with masks, so neither Keith Clark's wife nor his daughter were able to identify anyone in particular to say they were the people at the house. In addition, there wasn't any evidence linking the ballistics to those soldiers on trial because the documentation showing which guns had been assigned to which soldiers went missing. So the judge really didn't have a choice. Without eyewitness evidence or any evidence linking them to the scene, the prosecution didn't have a credible case, so the soldiers walked free. And I did a video on this as well, so you can check that out. Number 7. In 2018, the parents of a little girl tried to enroll her at the Kensington Primary School in St. Catherine, but the school told the parents they would have to cut the little girl's locks if she was to go to school there. In July 2024, the Court of Appeal ruled that the school had breached the child's right to freedom of expression. And yes, I did a video on that as well, so you can also check that out. Number 6, the UA torture case. Former university student Matthew Hyde had been accused of holding an ex-girlfriend in his dorm room against her will for 3 days and torturing her with a hot clothes iron. He pleaded guilty to assault occasioning actual bodily harm, false imprisonment, malicious communication, and causing grievous bodily harm with intent. Now, he was sentenced on all counts, but since the sentences run at the same time, the one that matters most is the most serious sentence for causing grievous bodily harm with intent to maim, and the judge sentenced him on that to 15 years and 7 months. So you can say it with me. I did a video on this. You can check that out as well. 2 videos actually. Number 5, Omar Kymore sentenced to life in prison. Now, this was an awful crime. A husband accused of murdering his wife for money. According to the prosecution, Kymore had murdered his wife to benefit from her $100 million life insurance policy. Simone Campbell Kymore and her taxi driver Winston Walters were killed in January 2018. She was 32 at the time, and she had been shot 19 times. The taxi driver was 36. He was shot 5 times. Kymore was 41. He was a businessman from the United States. He was sentenced to 2 life sentences, and he'll have to serve 46 years and 6 months before being considered for parole. Number 4 is the Daniel Rowe murder case. Another really sad story. Dental assistant Coyote Satchel had confessed to killing 8-year-old Daniel Rowe by cutting the little girl's throat in June 2023. According to Satchel, she killed the child because the child's father, she says, gave her Satchel HIV. Now, she was sentenced to life in prison. She'll have to serve 27 years and 4 months before being considered for parole. Now, I did a video on what the law says about deliberately giving someone HIV. I still want to look at the sentencing in this case because I think there are some interesting and important issues I do want to share with you. Number 3 is a Beachy Stout murder case. 70-year-old Portland businessman Everton Beachy Stout MacDonald and Oscar Barnes were both sentenced to life in prison for the murder of MacDonald's second wife, Tonya. Now, she was 32, and her partially burnt body had been found on a deserted road in Sherwood Forest in Portland. That was in July 2020. Now, the men will each have to serve 28 years and 11 months before being considered for parole. It came out at trial that a policeman who was reportedly having an affair with Tonya had supposedly posted a picture on Facebook of himself inside Beachy Stout's bedroom. Just as a reminder, Beachy Stout has also been charged for the 2002 murder of his first wife, Merlene Petal MacDonald. She had been shot dead outside her home in Boundbrook, Portland, and that case comes back before the court in 2025. And very weirdly, Beachy Stout's son, U.S. Air Force Major Andre MacDonald, well, I guess his former major at this point, had been sentenced in 2023 to 20 years in prison for the 2019 killing of his wife, Andreen MacDonald. This is a whole Lifetime movie going on right here. Now, for number 2, we're moving away from murder cases to a constitutional case involving Director of Public Prosecutions Paula Lin. This was a ruling by the Court of Appeal on a challenge by the opposition to a constitutional amendment that had raised the retirement age of the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Auditor General from 60 to 65. The government won at the Court of Appeal, so Ms. Llewellyn gets to stay as DPP until her 65th birthday, which is going to be in September 2025. And if you want to know more, check out my video or videos on this particular issue. Number 1 now, well, I don't think this is any surprise for most people. My number 1 pick for story of the year coming out of the courts is the freeing of dancehall artist Vybz Cartel. And I chose this story as number 1 because it was just so impactful both locally and abroad. Whether you're a fan of Cartel or not a fan, people have been following this story and fascinated with it, from his arrest through to his trial, his appeals, all the way back to the Court of Appeal hearing that finally freed him. Now, just as a reminder, remember Cartel was arrested way back in September 2011. A jury found him, Kahira Jones, Andre St. John, and Sean Campbell guilty of the murder of Clive Lizard Williams. And the Court of Appeal dismissed their appeals. That was in April 2020. On March 14, 2024, the Privy Council quashed, meaning threw out their convictions, and sent the case back to the Jamaican Court of Appeal for the Jamaican Court of Appeal to decide if the men should be retried or not. On July 31, 2024, the Court of Appeal ruled that the men were not to be retried and that verdicts of acquittal were to be entered. And Vybz Cartel walked free. So it's been a really busy year in the Jamaican courts. Stay tuned to this channel for ongoing coverage of legal issues as well as other current affairs. Remember to like the video, share it with somebody who may be interested, subscribe to the channel, all that helps us grow, and click that little bell icon so you can get notified whenever I post a fresh video, so you're right there, right as it's fresh. I'm Dionne. Thanks so much for being with me courtside. I'll see you next time.